Here's another one of those 8 clocks I picked up a couple months ago. This one has a somewhat unusually shaped case. When I got it, the top part here was covered in wood grain vinyl, which was peeling up and looked pretty terrible, honestly. So I peeled that all off and cleaned up the glue residue. At some point I might polish the case to get rid of these tool marks, but the original builder did a pretty nice job making it. And you can see they welded the corners. So after polishing, I think this could look pretty great. I'm going to plug it in now so you guys can see what it looks like lit up. You'll notice that it did not come up with a valid time. The minutes digits are both not lit. That's unfortunately pretty common with early National Semiconductor clock chips. But unless the chip is broken or something, just pressing the fast and slow set buttons should bring back a normal time after a little while. You'll notice that it's past 12 hours. It's up to 15 hours. But it's not set to 24-hour time. So if I keep advancing now, it'll actually go past 24, which is annoying. So if this happens, you want to switch it over to 24-hour time and then let it reset. You can see now it's past the point where it reset from 23:59 to 0. And it'll keep going up for a little bit. I think it goes up to 36 or something. 32. In any case, now it should keep time normally with no issues. If I advance the time again, it should roll over from 12 to 1. These are the kinds of issues that you don't have to deal with on modern clocks, but some of these early clocks are just kind of quirky like that. So after 12:59 it should roll over to 1. And there it goes. So it's back to normal. Now the back of the clock has some extra controls compared to what you may be used to seeing. Here's the fast set and the slow set, which pretty much every single one of these early clocks has. There's also a hold button, which is pretty common. And then it has a 12-24-hour switch and a display on-off switch. The on-off switch turns off everything except for the colons. Honestly, not a super useful feature, and I might modify this clock to make it so that that switch there turns off the seconds display. Haven't decided yet. The 12-24-hour switch just, switches between those two modes. As you saw in the beginning of the video, things can get a bit glitchy depending on the time of day you flip that switch at. And then there's the usual fast set and slow set buttons. This is the fast set. You can see it's holding the seconds and advancing the minutes, and also the hours. And then the slow set just rapidly advances the seconds, and also obviously everything after that. This one's got a fuse holder on the back. It's the only one of the clocks in this group of clocks that I bought that has an external fuse holder. On the bottom are 4 rubber feet. They were pretty discolored. You can see remnants of that discoloration. I think the previous owner painted them. Rubbing alcohol cleaned that up pretty well though, and amazingly these are still super soft. I wonder what sort of rubber these are made out of. When you think about it, these things are from around 1976 and they really haven't degraded. Well, that's all the features of the clock, so I'm going to take the cover off and show you guys the inside. First though, I'm going to unplug it. The cover is held on by these 2 screws. Although originally it was just held on by gravity, I added these screws. And yes, I know the 2 screws are different. Unfortunately, when I was drilling the other side, I drilled a bit too far when I was trying to put a little bevel in there. I did this side perfectly. The other one I just kind of over-drilled slightly, and then those beveled screws would not fit anymore. See the holes bigger there? Oops. This one was a bit beat up when I got it. I've since repaired everything that I thought needed repairing. These side pieces were broken loose. I reattached them with hot glue, and I also added this nut here, which those screws go into. There's one on either side. And the front glass was loose. I resecured that with some hot glue. The original filter capacitor on this thing was blown. I replaced it with a radial type, which required me to move one resistor to make some space there on the board. But it looks pretty original, I'd say. These 6 transistors here are the digit drive transistors, and these 7 here are the segment drive transistors. You can see that the segment resistors have discolored the circuit board around them. They definitely get pretty hot. This clock drives the displays harder than most of the other ones I have, but it seems to have held up in the long run, so I guess it's fine. As with the car clock I showed you guys last week, it uses these Beckman resistor dip things. One of them is 10K and the other one is 3.3K. There's a bridge rectifier here for the AC supply. This little device here is a early metal oxide varistor. I noticed that those had been added to almost all of the clocks in the group I bought. Maybe a power surge or something took one of them out, and those were added in. It's got a fairly good sized 12 volt output transformer there. The circuit board that holds the display is pre-printed but not pre-drilled. You can see that only some of the holes are drilled, although he did drill more than he needed. I'm glad kits come with pre-drilled circuit boards these days. Drilling all those little holes is a big pain in the neck. You probably noticed that not all the displays are the same brightness. These ones are a bit older. You can see they're dated 5/34, so the 34th week of 1975. And these ones here are dated 012, so that'd be 1980, week 12. The MM5314 chip is dated 402, so 1974. As I mentioned earlier in the video, it seems like the newer versions of this chip are a little bit less glitchy in terms of power on behavior, and the really late production ones seem to always come up at, I believe, 10 o'clock, which is kind of an odd time, but at least it's consistent. These early LEDs are pretty hard to find if you need to replace them. Modern LEDs are much brighter for the same amount of current, and a few of these clocks I had to change out broken or burned out colon separators, and then I had to change the resistors in order to make that work because they were just way too bright. I've got a few spares of these newer displays, so I could replace the seconds displays with those, but I actually like how the seconds display is a little bit dimmer so that your eyes are drawn to the hours and minutes. Well, thanks for watching.